See this?
Yeah. Dude, that is epic.
I figured it'd give you a good chuckle. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Life After Moto. Today, I have one of the most respected riders, I believe, that we have in the sport, Trey Canard, from winning his 2008 Supercross championship as a rookie in one of the toughest sports. Trey built a career defined on resilience, perseverance, and character. Today, we talk about his journey through motocross, the highs, the lows, and racing at the top level, and what life looks like after that last gate job. Welcome to the podcast, Trey Canard.
Yeah,
What's
thanks,
going
man.
on, Trey?
Oh, I'm pumped, man. I saw I don't know where I saw the first clip of this, but I saw that and I'm like, yes, someone is finally doing something like this. It's so needed, man. So I'm super happy to be on this and just man, thanks for what you're doing. It's awesome.
I really appreciate that. It's taken a lot of, um, kind of deep diving into myself, and I guess a long time, honestly, for me, kind of searching myself. And I'm not really too familiar with podcasts. I've listened to like Joe Rogan and whatnot a few times, but yeah, battling with this, and then the more I've kind of talked to people, the few people that I have spoken to, it seems to be way more of an occurrence than not. And who better else to have on this show than you? Speaking about these things. From you obviously had your injuries and your stuff, that your highs and your lows in your career, and yeah, it was something that I am super grateful that you're here talking to me about it. And I think that doing this as a whole, we can help somebody else out
Yeah.
there. I feel like it's like you said, it's definitely something that's not talked about very much.
Yeah, and it's funny to me, like, I there was more that I wanted to do in the sport, like I was definitely one of those guys that my career ended and it was like, man, I had more that I wanted to accomplish. And so I thought surely there's guys like me that have that same issue, but I always looked at guys that had accomplished everything and thought, they must be sailing through this a lot easier. Um I talked to Dungy quite a bit my first year or two being retired, and it was funny because he was going through the same things. I was like, it kind of blew me away because I guess I look at him and think, man, you did like all there is to do. He's on the leading
Mhm.
spots, right? So
Yeah.
what else is there to do in the sport? But we all, man, as soon as, like you said, that last gate drop, it's a battle from that point on, and I think the more people hear, hey, everyone's going through it, I think probably the better off we'll be.
Yeah. And, I don't think, I wouldn't say everyone's going through it, but I feel like even to me, the most people that's kind of reached out to me since I posted that first clip is like B riders,
Yeah.
and guys that just race or weekend warriors, the people that ride and have grown up riding. There were so many people that we seen at the tracks week in, week out, practicing all the time, that didn't make it pro, didn't sign with a team, tried to ride a couple supercrosses, but even those people are probably most of the people that's reached out to me that is like, man, I really struggled with like
Yeah.
having to stop and
Yeah.
not pursue that career and get a job. And I think about it every single day. And it's like, they're referred to as, man, back when I raced. And I find myself doing it all the time. Like,
Oh,
man, back
for sure.
when I rode. And yeah, but I'm going to start kind of go back a little bit, is starting off with like, when we kind of first met through like amateur racing. I was telling my wife, Lucy, I was like, dude, Trey, one of the number one memories that come to my mind is when we lived in that house in like Tioga.
Yeah.
And I stayed, and we couldn't ride. It was snowing, and we were just having snowball fights, and that type stuff. And it really brought back a lot of memories how far back, and
Yeah.
how long ago that actually was. And yeah, just from the Team Green days, the pro circuit races, I was thinking about those. I was like, man, how gnarly were those back then when
Oh man, yeah, that no, that kind of similar. The first couple things that popped in my mind. One were just the snowball fights. Like it was crazy because it was like a few days before the biggest race of the start of that year, and we're like eating Rice Krispie treats and throwing snowball. But those,
those
I told people all the time, man, those pro circuit races were gnarly. Like you'd show up every weekend, and there was like 5, 6 dudes that could win, and um, it was fun. It was stressful, but it was
ca-
fun. And I think it probably made us all a lot better because we had really good competition.
it sure was, man. And I like one of the most valid ones or like vivid ones that I remember was Village Creek. I think it was me, you, Hackley, and Kyle. And we went 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the second motos, it flipped 4, 3, 2, 1. And then that's how we finished. Like that's how
Yeah,
stacked it was all the
yeah,
time.
yeah,
And I do agree with you. I think it definitely pushed everybody a little bit harder having that competition all the time. And um yeah, I remember, man, those battles, seeing you show up, seeing Kyle show up, seeing Hackley show up. I was like, golly, it's gonna be a tough weekend. And that just it seemed to be like that was just every weekend, that was just part of the game.
yeah. I remember showing up. You wake up early or whatever. And you knew all your friends' motorhomes and stuff, so
Yeah.
you'd peeking out and yeah, dude, it was every single weekend, but it was fun,
Yeah.
man, and I'm really grateful that we grew up in that time in moto because man, it was pretty peak, I'd say, especially that kind of Texas, Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma area. There was a lot of good riders and, yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, so that's a good question is what do you think the back when we were riding that amateur or even pro status compared to the amateur and pro now? Do you think it's equivalent as far as like talent goes or like the bikes are that much better? What do you think on that dynamic?
I don't know, it's to me, it's like 2 different worlds, you know? We kinda grew up in that, like, pre-training facility era.
Mhm.
So we raced, man. We raced all the time. I remember, it was like every single weekend we raced.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, we were chasing that Cowie contingency, man.
dude, and we're making good money, right?
Yeah. That's what it
um,
was. You had to chase that Pro Circuit series and
if you
those
wanted to keep racing, yeah, you had to get your $250 green bucks for that win or whatever it was.
yeah.
Stack that over 5 glasses or whatever you did on that weekend, and you came out pretty good.
Heck yeah,
Um,
man.
but yeah, now it's kind of kids don't race as often, it's more like go to the facility and get ready for the 3, 4, 5 bigger races throughout the year. So it's strange because I think guys are really talented now and they start on Stasics and they're doing stuff I would have never done when I was 8 years old. But I think there's a little bit of art lost in the racing. Um, we kind of like we slugged it out every single weekend, and we didn't really ride together that much. I would come to Texas or whatever every now and then, but
Yeah.
so I don't know, there was a level of competition that I think almost is missing a little bit today. But the talent and the bikes, that's all that's all gone sky high to me. I mean, it's impressive to see what these kids do, like straight away.
Yeah, it's funny you say I actually ordered a Stasic yesterday for my little girl. So I'm curious to see what they're gonna do with it. And
Yeah,
it's so true because you could hop on one of those now as a kid and you can learn the fundamentals, and how just like to I guess you could see a rider when they have that kind of swagger on the bike.
right.
Some kids are all tucked in and just kind of look goofy,
Yeah,
but then some little kids just rip. You could tell they're just naturals at it. And
yeah.
if you could do that, I mean, I guess we had pit bikes back then, but we couldn't just rip them like in a park or, like kids can with a Stasic. So I think that's innovating the level of kids riding like a lot, like you said.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember I didn't have, like, a really good pit bike till I was probably 11 or 12. I got a KLX 110, and, before that, though, I had, like, a PW80, maybe, like, a 73 Z50, it was, like it wasn't really that cool of bikes, but, what kids can do on a I mean, relatively, you get a kind of Facebook Marketplace Stasic, like, pretty reasonable and, just be able to thrash all day, so, it's kinda sick. I mean, the bike skills are coming quick, and, like, I take my son to a pump track all the time. There's just cool stuff like that that wasn't it may be where I lived and stuff like that, but it seems like there's more available kind of instead of going to a track, there's a lot of other skill building, kind of around.
Yeah, and just like you said, I kinda touched on it with somebody else, but it seems like the training facility, like, for sod is, like that's all there is. There's not as many tracks to ride at anymore as far as, like, public places to do, like, kinda Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday deal like we used to do.
Yeah.
I s it seems like now it's more like, "Hey, you gotta be to this organization," and, like, you're, like, kinda loyal to them, you ride and train there, and then go do these big races, but
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of it. I mean, it is elevating guys, man, they're probably way more fit than for sure more fit than I was. Remember me, Matt, I was a little round kid, but they're probably more, like, fit, and they're probably more skilled on the bikes, but there's this just element of fun that I think that was had in our time, Um,
yeah.
and, just kinda raw competition, it wasn't so much, I don't know, it seems pretty clicky now, and that's not disrespecting anyone, that's just I appreciate the time we had, it was a fun time.
Yeah, and that's a so going back a little bit is, I remember early on in your childhood, I remember you lost your pops, and me, that was the tray that I remember that I would say things clicked for you from that moment on. I
Yeah,
remember, just how serious you took things, and, like, honestly, I've respected the discipline that you had because I sure didn't have it. And, yeah, going through amateurs, I feel like that was, like, part of the start of the different Trey Canard that I remember seeing. Is that kinda what clicked for you? I mean,
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
for
Blowing
sure, yeah.
smoke.
Yeah, without a doubt, it's kinda cool to hear that because I think I kinda internally knew, but, to hear kind of someone that was, really nearby me growing up it's cool. I mean, it's just moto is what I had, and so being able to kind of pour into something, because I didn't really know how to deal with what was going on. I was just kind of lost in a way, just a strange feeling. I know you lost your dad recently, and it's just an odd experience. And I think at 12, I didn't really know how to handle that, and so motocross was really like the thing that I could go do, and I could forget about everything else, I could forget about, kind of how it left my family and that stress that was kind of involved in that, and I could get on the bike and I could just lose myself a little bit, and then, I just kind of went head first into the training and everything. So it's definitely. I think you're right, man. It's definitely there's something that clicked in me, and I don't know if it was just I had an outlet in racing, and there's also kind of the like life became more serious because it became kind of real at that point, and so yeah, I
Yeah.
just went head first for sure.
Yeah, I definitely seen it, and I promise you, I've lost my pops, and being as old as I am, it still doesn't get any easier.
Yeah,
I can only respect it more seeing that what you did, how you did it with such a gnarly situation, because I remember seeing your dad, all the time at the races, and that's like what we did as families growing
Yeah.
up. And, to me, I could also see that going the total opposite way,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you not putting yourself into it, which I think that's probably the best case scenario is the way that you handle it was like, I'm going to dive into racing instead of like despising it because
Yeah.
that's what you did with your dad.
Yeah.
Um, and it constantly reminds you because obviously your dad didn't y'all own like a motorcycle shop in
Yeah, we had a,
Oklahoma?
yeah, small, I mean, we sold mainly like ATVs and UTVs and things, but, we had dirt bikes and things. It was Kawasaki and Suzuki, and, yeah, we had a motorcycle dealership and just a tiny track, behind the shop. So, yeah, it was definitely like a reminder, like, all the time. But I think one of the things, and I mean, you might kind of be able to speak to this too, is just community really helped me, just, I still stayed connected to that group and Pilot Point between the Hewitts and you guys and, the Whartons were in that area. It's just like just cool that I could still go to the pro circuit races on the weekends and still see familiar faces and people treated me so well like that. It's just, I don't know. It's just really cool for me in that time to be able to, see your mom and dad and your brothers and just this whole group of people that was a consistent community to me, even though we were competing together. It's like we were almost family. So I really appreciate that aspect of things.
Yeah, that's exactly I literally you can't see under this badass jersey I'm wearing, but I literally have the chills from head to toe right now because you pretty much took out of my mouth what I was gonna say is no matter how much we battled or showed up to the line and like literally did not want to talk to one another, at the end of the day, we still rode together and we still hung out together and we still knew that we were going to see each other the following weekend regardless. So yeah, I promise you, I've respected you from the very most, from when we were little. And I respected you as a competitor, a person, and just who you've grown to be. Like I've kind of been out of it obviously for a little while, but I know that you're putting off like what Trey is and you're being so authentic to yourself. And I feel like I would say within the past few years, I've started being that way. Like if you don't like me, I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna like not be true to myself, and that's kind of what I wouldn't say forced me to do this, but drove me to do this is like I can't put off a fake persona anymore to make people happy. Is like I gotta find out what makes me tick and live that every single
Yeah.
day. And I've seen you've done that for a very long time, at least from me looking at you, through the amateur racing, through which brings me into what I was going to say next is I remember specifically being at Hunter's house and this sits in my mind so clear was dude, I woke up so early and went outside and you were already done riding and gone. And it was like 6 a.m. And it was like a Friday that you were flying out to the race. And I think you were working with Shannon at the
Yeah.
time. And I was like,
Yeah.
holy crap, dude. Like, talk about commitment and being on it. You were like already there, did your stuff, and was gone. And I'm just like picking the crust out of my eyes. And like, what is going that to me was like, holy crap. I respect like from that day forward, I was a super fan no matter what. And let's, I guess, dive into that commitment that Trey Canard had at that point in time.
Yeah, it's I mean, not to just like go back to my dad, but it definitely started then. It was, and I don't know how super healthy it was sometimes, but I from that point on, for whatever reason, I just locked in super hard, and I think almost it hurt me at a point in my career because I was so locked in all the time that I overrode at times just because I wanted, you know, had so much effort. could never really relax. But also I'm really grateful for that too, because after racing, man, it's hard. It's hard to you got to have like a similar amount of dedication to what you're doing, and so I'm really grateful for that. I definitely had a lot of great people kind of helping me. Greg Dorenzo definitely taught me a lot about dedication, and um, I'm super grateful for that. Um, but yeah, I remember that I had this thing Fridays. I had to ride Fridays for some reason. And so I remember barely being able to see. It was like cold that morning, and
Mhm.
I did start some like 10 or 15 laps and went straight to the airport. So um, yeah, I don't know how healthy that was, but I think it was for me in that time is what I needed confidence wise to go perform. So
I think that was just showing like how focused and like into it you were. Because I think now a lot of people just like complain, like, oh, I gotta ride, I gotta do these motos, I gotta do it. But like putting yourself like, dude, I have to do this and this is going to make me better. And it's just, I look at it now. I feel like I've done like a couple marathons and I'm like so stressed out, like getting things ready and like, oh, I got to do that. And like, I'm thinking through the process before it's going, like I'm going to win $1 million tomorrow. But it's like, I never did that while racing. But that was like
yeah,
one of the memories that came to me when I thought about you was just like, man, you were bulletproof. You were rock solid. And like I said, I respected it from a distance all the time. I mean, going into your rookie season from the amateur side, having all of that success, right off the bat do you think that that was like a good thing or do you think that was kind of something?
yeah, it was kind of I don't know, almost like a blessing and a curse all at the same time because I expected myself to perform that way every single race I raced from that point forward, which was just kind of an enormous amount of pressure that I don't know that I was like totally ready to handle. But at the same time, I mean, I'm so grateful to have won races and won a championship because it's hard, man. It's really hard, and
Yeah.
um, so I can't be like, man, that was the worst because that's a huge honor to be able to do that. But yeah, I wish I would have kind of like scaled it a little bit and built over a year or two because it's just like, dang, from that point forward, I just expected like, hey, I gotta win, I gotta win. And so that pressure was hard to deal with, um, but it was a special time, and definitely, I hear probably most about that first season that I do a lot of anything in my career.
Yeah, I wasn't for sure, honestly, if it was the first season. I just remember even from then, you were just always a podium guy. You were always, from what I can remember, always crushing it. Um, that was easy for me to go back and think on. And yeah, I guess you don't see very many people come out and just smoke the field, and go and win like you did, like which was truly awesome. And yeah, I never got to experience that, but, I had said, yeah, like in one of the ones before was like, that was my true goal was just to win one race. I think I would have been content with everything that was going on, but, we live and we learn, and that's why we're here now. So,
Yeah, dude, I just remember how fast you were, dude. You're just like insane. Yeah, wild. Like the speed. When I think of like, there's two dudes I think about in my life that have just blown me away with speed, and it's you and Austin Stroop. Like you guys, I don't even. There's days that you guys were just untouchable, man. It's incredible, and to me, like I don't even think about race wins and championships because at the end of the day, it's like it's kind of like almost silly, It's like accolades on a wall. I don't know how much they mean a lot, but but man, when I think about just riding a motorcycle, like, I think about you with, like, orange hubs, just leaned over and just wide open, dude. It's it's sick.
Dude, you would not believe the amount of people that the orange hubs were, like, just iconic for everybody, which I never knew in a million years that that would happen, but going back to Austin Stroop, you just reminded me of my last year with you at Loretta's in the schoolboy class.
Yeah.
Dude, how gnarly was that lineup with it was like you, Dunge, me, Stroop, Kyle. I mean, dude, the list was which y'all I think y'all raced a year after that, right? At
Yeah.
Loretta's?
Yeah,
Y'all graduated like '07?
yeah, I raced '07 was my last year, but yeah, '05, man, it was crazy. It was like, I think Dungy won a class and then maybe Osborne won a class. I can't you should have won a class, but you had a DNF, I think.
Yeah, I ended up the stock class, I went 36.11.
Yeah, yeah,
But I remember that last moto, you and I battled, like, hard that
yeah,
moto,
yeah,
and the scores were all over the place, man, but that just showed you, like, how fast all everybody was going, like,
yeah.
mod class was totally different than the stock class, and, yeah, Osborne was in there. That was a pretty thick field, and, um, yeah, that was definitely some good times, but alright, back to you. Let's so, yeah, I mean, I could sit here and reminisce with you all day long about those things, but, yeah, going back to kind of the stuff that I wanted to talk to you about was, with that early success in your career, obviously you started making some pretty good money like right away, which was kind of life-changing in a lot of different ways. Did you from the beginning have someone like mentoring you on how to spend your money or how to manage your money at that time?
No, I mean, I just had my mom and, like everybody else, we just went into, like, crazy debt to go race,
Mhm,
and so that was kind of priority number 1, I guess, is to try to, like, fill that in a little bit, try to figure that out. I think one of the blessings of me being so focused is I didn't really get off target, I guess, I wasn't really into, cars and, the things that you can spend your money on that lose value quickly,
mhm,
and so I anything that I did spend money on was kind of like to further my career. So I guess I'm thankful 'cause, it could have probably gone off the rails pretty quick. You and I were in a pretty good money time as far as those early contracts were, um, probably a lot more than what someone's gonna get even today, right off the bat from the top to bottom. Um, but yeah, so I didn't have help, and I'm grateful my mom kind of helped me in a lot of ways. But that's one thing, man, I, like, wish so badly that there was more guidance in that way. One from just, there is a strange thing that happens when you do start making money as far as your family's debt that they've acquired. Like, who's responsible, um, how all that looked. I've seen that tear more families apart than anything, and thankfully, I'm kind of managed through that, and have a great relationship with my mom still today. But that's not the case for everybody. And so I think for me, like, trying to figure out that debt is one thing. And then
mhm,
two is not looking at the shiny stuff. I mean, that's really hard. Especially when you're making, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars to, like, not go spend it because it's
yeah,
exciting, and you two, you've been racing pro circuit races just so you could, like, continue
yeah,
racing. So then you get like a 20, $30,000, you know, podium bonus. He's like, man, you want to go spin that because it's cool. But yeah, that the discipline definitely helped me avoid that. And I know it's not really the case for some guys. So yeah, I love that's one of the reasons I love you doing this because like people really need like not a hand to hold. Maybe that is a good analogy. I don't know, but just some
Yeah.
guidance, and just someone that's like, hey, like think
Well,
10
that's
years down the road, not next week.
yeah, and that's the exact reason why, like, I wanted to have you on is I respect the way that you went about things, and it looks to me like you're doing fantastic, and it seems like you have, everything kinda where you would wanna have it. And for me, I was opposite. I signed a contract and then I wanted a new car, the diamond watch and, all the shiny things, just like you said. And I remember specifically, like you allowing me to come to your house and ride your tracks, sometimes. And that was like, dude, this is cool. Like, cause you can actually, you owned, all of that land and having those badass tracks and, that stuff where now obviously a lot older, we look and it's like you could still have those things. And like you said, I don't feel like I've seen it both ways. I've seen there's several people that kind of do it the right way and then set themselves up. But I see more so than not, like the families get involved and it becomes like you said, a weird dynamic between the parents and the younger kids. And then that kinda tears them apart, but then I also see where it's just, like, buying, cars and whatever, which I'm not gonna sit here and tell people how to spend their money because it's not mine that but, yeah, if we could talk about it and maybe someone that needs to hears it from a guy like you that is looking at it from the other side of the fence now, I think it could just, possibly help somebody out, and, yeah, it was the reason I, brought it up to you.
Yeah, it's strange, and I think you lose kind of the concept of money. I mean, like the I think that like '04 to like '07 time was just a really good time financially in our sport. It's like I don't know, you're 16, 17, 18, 19 years old and making, six figures and just seems like, yeah, this is never going to end,
Yeah.
but now I'm like, I'm outside of racing. It's really hard to go make $100,000.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, it's
really
true.
hard. And that's almost barely cutting it these days. Um, so yeah, I would just say, man, like get on it early. I got a financial advisor, um, outside of the industry, probably 5 or 6 years into my career. And that was helpful at this point in my life. Just, when you go from that, professional contract to $0, that's a strange concept. So just having someone that has your best interest in mind is helpful as well.
Yeah, and I think you're 100% right, I don't think it goes for just motocross
Yeah.
racers. I think it's
Yeah.
for athletes across the board to, you get the money while you can, but just like you were saying, making 6 figures in 2008, 2009 is equivalent to making like a $500,000 now. Like, it it's insane to me to look at stuff, making 100 grand now, you're not making that much money,
Yeah.
and I don't know how the racing is, but I said it, like, in one of the other things that I did was I remember people wanting to ride for nothing,
Yeah.
and that was for me, was, like, one of the last straws was like, "Dude, I'm not riding for no money, like,
Yeah.
this is I
Yeah.
could go race Odessa arena crosses and make 5 grand, like, why am I gonna ride or, like, Guthrie arena cross, remember those? It's just
Yeah.
like, why am I gonna ride and do this gnarly sport and put all of this time and dedication into this and not get, like, anything out of it? Like, of course, I love it, but the amount of money that it takes to do it, especially, like, on how I was doing it, like, on a privateer basis, man, it's tough. Like, it's struggling to get to that next race, like you said. It kinda reminded me of back, like, the pro circuit days. We were chasing that contingency money to make it to the next race
Yeah.
and showing up in our beater motorhomes, and trying to race that next weekend. So
Yeah,
Yeah, I was actually gonna ask you if you had gotten a financial advisor or someone to help you along that way to set yourself up to where you are now, and, would you recommend obviously doing that?
yeah, absolutely. The way that I mean, this is personal stuff, but I'm happy to talk about it because I think maybe there's people in similar situations. But basically, my parents' business was like so far in debt that there was just like no coming out of that. And so that our CPA and our financial advisor worked together, and I was able to kind of like take ownership of the portion of the business, and that helped me on my taxes because I'd kind of taken this massive
Mhm.
loss. And so I don't know, there was a lot of like debt resolution in that, getting other people involved who are a lot smarter than us,
Yeah.
because we didn't know money. It's like not it's new to us, right? Like we don't have like didn't really come from money, and so to like then make money and know how to what to do with it is almost hard because it's almost overwhelming. And then you're paying a lot of taxes, and so trying to figure all that is like really strange. But I did, yeah, probably got a really good CPA. I think probably like 3 years in, and then a financial advisor about five years in. And that really gave me a lot of peace of mind. Just it's overwhelming. Trying to reconcile all that and make sense of it. So that's funny you mentioned the motorhomes, though, man. I remember being embarrassed to show up to the track. I mean, our motorhome like made noises as it as it
Dude.
rolled down the road.
Man, my mom, I went to pick something up from her house the other day and she's like, "Matt, take this." And it was just like a box of pictures and it had like our old motorhome, like an old Tioga, it was called, with a little hatch on the back. And I was like laughing and I showed it to my wife because she's never even seen me ride a motorcycle, which is kind
Yeah,
of funny. But I'm like, yeah, we were, clonking along and that thing. And you park next to somebody that just had a 50 footer with a double stack trailer, and all the motorcycles and stuff out of the back. So, but yeah, along those lines where you got a financial advisor and stuff to kind of help you, which I think obviously is the smartest possible thing you could have done. Did he advise you to like invest in some things? Did you invest in anything, or is it something that you wish you would have done?
yeah. So I'm thankful that I did this. But the first thing I did was open uh, a retirement account, which seems super strange to me. I was 20 years old. I'm like, I'm gonna put something into an account that I can't touch until I'm 62 or something. It's
Hmm.
so odd to do that. But one, it was helpful tax wise, but also they started explaining to me things like compounding interest and things like that. And like at that time, I was just kind of like, okay, well, whatever you guys think. But now I've seen how it's worked well, and you kind of go like, okay, I understand that. That time I was like, I need a bulldozer.
Yeah.
I don't really want to put this money into an investment account that I'm not going to be able to touch until I'm what seems like 90. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was the first thing I did, and then once I got kind of rolling there, I started just a uh, general fund, mutual fund, and then slowly just kind of the way that I've worked it is I've kind of like had different pots, and certain ones are like more essential. So I've
Hmm.
just tried to when one fills up, it kind of pours into the next one, and um, I'm very like non-aggressive at this point in my life, just because I make
Hmm.
a lot less money than I did when I was racing. But when I was racing, there was things I was really aggressive with, and allowed people that I trusted and tried to keep a really close eye on things, because that's another side of that story that's really difficult, is it's hard to trust people with these things.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
But yeah, that to me, yeah, and I probably need to thank my mom for that the most, is 'cause she really encouraged investing in things. I also had an opportunity to invest in a Planet Fitness franchise,
Oh, heck yeah.
which was really good. Thankfully, Mike Grondel and Jeff Myshak were a part of the team I was writing for, and so that was a really kind of natural thing. But really, the things in my life that have worked out well have really kind of happened like that. It's kind of been a really good opportunity with just people I know, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I
But
think
that's
yeah. Go ahead.
no, I think that's awesome. Like I think that's my dream is like own my own gym. But it's so cool because one, your team was sponsored by like Planet Fitness at the time. So then it was a great opportunity for you to step in and be like, hey, like I could get one or two. I remember, I think I read something that Wyndham kind of did the same thing, right? Had owned some Planet Fitnesses, and that's amazing. I think that is like the by the book, probably perfect way that you could have done it. And that just validates it even more, like how badass you are. And having, your stuff together. And yeah, I super admire it so much that, now working a regular job, that was the first thing I did was open up a retirement account, which is like,
Yeah.
dude, why am I doing it now? Like, why didn't I do that when, you're actually making a little bit of money, and I think that's, if I could give any advice, would be like, dude, the sooner the better. Like,
Yeah.
just do it. You don't, it's out of sight, out of mind. You don't even touch it. You don't even own it. You don't have it, but
Yeah.
someday you'll need it.
Yeah.
And
It's
I think it
amazing what
helps.
$2,000 would have done, 15 years ago. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said,
jeez.
that compounding interest and, sitting in there for 10, 15 years, it grows a lot. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be much as long as it's something.
Yeah.
Um, goes a long ways. And I think, yeah, you pretty much nailed what I wanted to say. But going back to the racing just a little bit, like through your career, obviously we battled some injuries and a lot of adversity from you. And the resilience that you showed every single time, like coming back, bouncing back, coming back, winning races and crushing it. Where did you find yourself in those situations? Like, were you battling like the mental side of it at all, or were you always just like determined that you were going to get back on the bike and get back to where you were before it happened?
Yeah, it definitely got harder through my career. One thing that I'd really learned from all the discipline was like if I just kept my head down, that I would eventually come out of it. Um, but through the years, as those injuries like compiled and compiled and compiled, it got harder. Especially what really did me in was hitting my head. That really was difficult. But yeah, there was times I handled it well, and there was times I handled it horribly. One of the things I'm grateful for is I'm allergic to opioids, so
Yeah.
um, I know that's I mean, for a lot of guys in my generation, that was a really horrible thing. That um, through all the injuries and surgeries and doctors throwing pain pills at them, it's like thankfully I was allergic to that, so that was never really like a problem for me. But I can see just because it's a really I mean, it's like you go from this high of doing well or feeling good on the bike, and then you go to this dead stop, and then you're left with an injury, and then you're left with just normal life, doing it on crutches or with one arm, or
Mhm.
um, and then you're used to doing so much in a day as far as physical activity, and then that stops. So you just lose a lot of the good chemicals that you're used to getting, and it just can get really, really depressing. And then you think about, man, am I going to be good enough to do this again? Am I ever going to be the same? And then the other side of that is like, am I going to lose my ride? Am I going to lose support? Um, so yeah, there was definitely times where um, I really struggled, especially my back. I don't know that I really ever fully recovered from my back injury. Just um, every time I lined up, it was kind of a little bit in the back of my mind. But I think what really made that hard was leading up to that. I broke my femur testing in 2011, testing outdoors, getting ready for outdoors. And then I came back and broke it again at Washougal, like a race into coming back, and then getting ready for Supercross. At the end of that year, I broke my collarbone like 5 weeks before the season, and then my second race back from my collarbone, I broke my back. And so it was like, dude, I can't do this without getting hurt. Um,
Yeah.
and that was hard because my collarbone and my back, and I was trying to be cautious. I was like, I gotta quit getting hurt. So I almost like backed it down. I still got hurt.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a really like difficult mental thing to battle, especially when you're trying to be reserved or you're trying to do things right and these things still happen. Just not personalizing it, like I'm messed up or I'm a bad writer and or those are
Mhm.
just that's hard.
Yeah.
I really struggle with that. That was probably the hardest things in my career as far as, trying to stay mentally strong.
Was it things that lingered in your mind, like you said, that you think affected the way that you rode when you came back? Like those things piling on, and then, you have that little bit of doubt that's in your head, like you're back, hey, if I hit
Yeah.
this jump way, like I would normally hit it this way, but if I seat bounce it, it's gonna send me a stinger up my back.
Yeah.
Is that some things that you battled with?
I think thankfully, like my spinal injury like went really good, like um I broke it in a really bad, scary way, but just the way that they all put it back together and I just it's for sure bothers me more now than anything, like any of us, like, my shoulder hurts and
That's just because 'cause you're getting old, Trey.
yeah, I'm gonna be 30. Oh, I'm closer to 40 than I've ever been. Uh, but but yeah, no, everything went good. So there was never really like a hindrance in the physical, but mentally, yeah, that one just stayed with me. As I remember, I really there's one thing I wish I would have not done with the injuries is, there was a kind of almost like a rhetoric, like I was injury prone or I took bad risk and so I really let that get to me and go, man, I got to change the way I do things um and then I got hurt still. So that one really like lingered with me because it felt like, man, I'm just I got bad juju or something. Um so yeah.
I don't think that was the case.
No,
I don't I
it's funny, you look around at the sport, it's just gnarly. Like,
Yeah.
it's just gnarly. Like, the things that are happening, guys are just get hurt, and
Dude,
unfortunately.
how many races do you watch that you're just like, like that all over the track at any period of time, people jump over here, hit a hay bale, like it almost happens a lot.
Yeah,
That I think when you're riding and you're just so locked in, those things are kind of just feel normal, but just one, it just takes one to just catch you,
yeah.
that just you don't even realize it before you know it. Like you wake up and you're looking at Doc Bodner, and the Alpine Stars crew, and I've been there so many times, just felt like I was just shredding. And then I'm like, wait, what happened again? So I feel like it's just, you're so locked into it when people watch it from the side. They're like, dude, you got sketchy like 15 times out there. And you're like, I don't, I don't remember that, like it's just, I think we're so locked in and zoned into like what you're doing at that time that, yeah, it just takes one to reach up and bite you. And people say
Yeah.
there's no luck involved, but I think
Uh,
there has to be a little bit of luck in there, like I feel like I've had some pretty bad luck myself, and obviously you could put yourself in those situations by getting bad starts or being behind the wrong people,
yeah.
or you can avoid those things, but some things are out of your control when someone jumps a triple across the track and lands on you, like that type of stuff.
Yeah.
It's definitely bad luck, is that's what I look at it as.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I definitely gave myself a lot of bad luck just from starts. Like my crash in Detroit in 2015. I was in a heat race, or I guess whatever they were calling the semi. They had semis there for a few years,
Mhm.
and Weimer's bike shut off right in front of me. So I mean, if I would have been at the front of the pack, I likely wouldn't have been in that crash. Um, but yeah, it's. I'll say whenever I tried to be cautious and make better decisions, I almost put myself in more harm's way than when I was, really focused in and just reacting rather than trying to, think ahead. You got to kind of be in the headspace of, being reactive or kind of taking things as they come rather than kind of like, oh, that jump has a kicker on it, thinking
Yeah.
3 innings ahead. So, yeah, it's tricky. I wish I wouldn't have kind of got that label because I think it really got into my head, and that was one thing with Chase Sexton when he was at Honda. I was really trying to like help him like get past that because people were making such a big deal about, oh, when Chase is in front and he crashes. Um, it's like, no, yeah, that's happened a few times, but
Yeah.
just don't buy into that thought because that's the first step of you kind of like accepting that. And
Mhm.
so yeah,
But
that's
that's way
probably
easier
a
said than
long-winded
done,
way to
right?
say that, but yeah, and it's way easier to talk about than it is to kind of like turn that stuff off.
Yeah, and, going back to your point is I remember just not thinking at all. That was like it's just kind of when you started thinking or I started thinking, that's whenever I would screw up. It's
Yeah,
like I'm worried about the person behind me or worried about a particular jump on the track, and I'm racing the rest of the track worried about like, hey, I need to jump that 4 over there instead of focusing on what I was doing.
yeah,
I feel like it's just kinda you're in a trance almost. Your
yeah,
body's used to doing that stuff day in and day out, and when you really do start thinking of it or letting that thing or letting people get into your mind, I feel like it could play a huge role on the outcome. I mean, I feel like I see it just going what you're saying with Chase is I see it vice versa with Cooper.
yeah,
Like Cooper, it doesn't matter. He can have a bad practice, but then he's going to show up and he's going to be a competitor,
yeah,
in the race. And that to me is something you can't buy, you can't teach. It's just like you have it or you don't. Obviously you could train it and try to get better at it, but the internet makes that way too too hard these days.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a great point, right? Like, yeah, Coop is gnarly and he's great, but it's almost become such a thing that he like believes that even more. So, yeah, I wish I wouldn't. I'm such a like a people pleaser. It was hard for me to like turn that kind of stuff off when people talked about me that way.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's. I mean, if there's guys coming up, it's like know the facts, know what's true about you, and leave the rest of it alone, man. Because the only thing that matters is what you're gonna do in this. It doesn't matter what the guy on Vital MX thinks about you.
Yeah. That and like you said, that's so hard to do. I mean, no matter what nowadays, especially kids, dude, everybody's got a film crew.
Yeah,
It's like social media is part of your life now. That's getting
yeah,
your image out there. It's like that college football image likeness up, it's getting your whole status. So it's impossible to stay away from it,
yeah,
but I think it needs to be used as a tool. And like that's what all it needs to be used for, and
yeah,
not to like dive into the negativity because no matter what you do or say or put out there, there's going to be people that's just going to be negative on it. Like, I do
yeah,
not care what it is and how positive it is. If you're talking about the Lord or you're talking about racing or you're talking about, yourself in a bad way, there's just going to be people that are going to hate on it regardless of what you have to say.
yeah.
Eh,
Yeah. Yeah, 100%, man, and I didn't learn that lesson until later in my life, kind of post racing and, trying to figure out who I was outside of a motocross racer, and kind of establishing your value outside of that, I think was probably the most helpful thing for me in that way. But yeah, there's a song. It goes, you if you live for their acceptance, you'll die from their rejection. And yeah, it's so true, man. It's like if you're constantly looking for the comments and the likes and everyone to kind of give you a pat on the back, it only takes
Yeah.
one person to tell you that you're a piece of trash for you to like really deflate. So
Yeah.
finding your identity, your value outside of that, I think is a really important lesson.
Yeah. I totally agree. And um yeah, so going a little bit forward, obviously the next part is, your life after racing. That transition from the last gate drop that Trey Canard had to that shift to what you were gonna do next. Did you plan for anything in that time? I know for myself, I've said it, is like I struggled big time with stopping, hating it, resenting it.
Yeah.
Was that like any way for you? Like when you stopped racing, did you know what you were gonna do next?
Nah, man. I wish, man, I don't know how to communicate this because racing is one of those things that you have to do like all in. You really gotta you almost gotta like be a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
um but I wish there was not a plan B, but just kind of like, hey, I'm gonna work on this on the side, like as a hobby, because it wasn't necessarily the stopping the racing that was hard. I mean, that part was really, really hard, but I think what was harder was having nothing to do. Like,
Mhm.
because you start thinking about like okay, like what am I gonna do financially? And then you're like, well, now I don't see anybody that I saw for the last 20 years of my life. And then it's like, well, now I'm not really exercising because I saw that as a job. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
eating bad because it's like I've always wanted to just go to Chick-fil-A and eat dinner. Um, so it's just this compound of like not good stuff that really I think sneaks up on you.
Mhm.
And then for me, all the people that locally, they're constantly asking you like, "Hey, what are you gonna do now? What are you gonna do now? What are you gonna do now?" And when you don't have an answer for that, you kind of just I got to the point I just started telling people I don't know. Like just I just hated that question, and
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Just leave me alone. Um, so yeah, I struggled for about a year, and I think some of that was my head injury. I think that's probably something for a lot of us. There is head injuries that especially in our time, that you didn't really like take the time to let heal, and you just keep moving and hit your head again and those types of things. So when I did hit my head the last time, I was not right emotionally, and I think that almost made it e- more difficult. Um, but yeah, it is a strange. I just explain it to people as one of the strangest times of my life, just for a lot of different reasons. But I think one of the strangest is that I'd done something since I was literally 3 years old until I was 27, and then I just wasn't going to do it anymore, and that
Mhm.
was just like so confusing, you know. And people were like, "Yeah, just take the discipline, everything you learn in motocross, and put it into something else," and it's just not the same. And so that was a really hard transition for me.
Yeah, I think for myself, I felt like just lost. It was
Yeah,
the easiest way to put it. Like you said, there was the group of people you were used to seeing, the like we referred to it as our family. Like
yeah,
we've seen those same people for forever, and then just chopping it off and talking to people. I feel like now the best way to kind of handle it is like staying involved in it and not just like
yeah.
kind of doing exactly what I did is like the
Mm,
worst case scenario of, yeah, I just found myself shrinking a whole lot. Like that was the what I thought was making me happy, like throwing a Band-Aid on it, but,
Yeah.
looking now, it's like all it was doing was, like, causing a whole different, part of my life to just go down the gutter, not applying myself to anything, but
Yeah.
I or should I ask, what do you think people could do to maybe prepare for that step in their life?
Mm,
Do
yeah.
you think that or do you have any recommendations to try to avoid that transition, or do you think that everybody just kinda has to go through that part of their life at some point and kinda figure it out on the other side?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think that's a great point what you said about, staying involved a little bit. That was definitely a mistake I made. I almost like resented the people in the industry because it's like, well,
Mhm,
my phone doesn't ring anymore. No one texts me, no one calls me. You feel like almost abandoned in a way.
mhm.
But I think what you come to realize is people are just busy, and they got other stuff, and the reason you saw them is because you were doing it too, and so
Mhm.
that's what helped me not take things personally that way, I guess. But yeah, I would, man, strongly suggest like just do something on the side, and make it a hobby. Um, like day trade. I don't know, like things
Yeah,
that don't take that much of your time because there's so much of your time that's dedicated to racing. But find something that you can do, whether it's taking an online class or
that's
like I don't know, learn another language. Like there's things that don't take that much time but could actually like create some sort of outlet for you to like de-stress from the actual racing as well that
yeah,
are super helpful. Go do woodwork. I don't know, like
yeah.
do something is my suggestion. And it doesn't have to be, I think for us as racers, we're so like disciplined and goal oriented that we think everything has to be to this like elite level. Um, and we come out of racing at an elite level. And when we jump into something after racing, it's not at an elite level. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like,
No,
you're starting
you
from
get
square one
humbled.
again. And so, and that's hard too, because to be at the top 20% of something is hard. And then to not be that is equally as hard. So, yeah, I would just find something to do, get interested in, and that way too, like your identity's not so wrapped up in it. You build other outlets that when things stop, it's not total silence. You still got a big part of your life that you've been developing.
Yeah, and I know you always talked about, your faith, and that's something that I admire is, even having that church family or, those different people to lean on. And I feel like what I advice that I could give to anyone is like your support system, regardless, and your faith is humongous
Yeah.
in that transition and surrounding. I found myself super depressed because I didn't, like you said, I didn't want to speak. I resented the racing industry.
Yeah.
I resented this, and I played that pity game on myself, and that made me isolate myself. But that was like the total opposite of what like I would encourage you to do is like have that good support system, around you when that time does come or if it ever comes. Um, to help you navigate those waters. I think having, a strong faith like you do, and um I think that that would help a lot. And then I also think that if people would do like a trade school, like
Yeah.
you said, a class, people play video games 24/7. Probably everybody is sitting on their phone on Instagram or Facebook or whatever for another hour a day. You know, I wish that, taking that time to implement it into a class or, whatever it is that dude, I know plumbers here in Texas make a killing. Take a plumbing class. It's like if for real, it's transitioning and having just something. I've seen it with a lot of kids that were fortunate enough that their parents were very well off that raced and like they stopped racing and they just like took over the family business, you
Yeah.
know. But not all of us have that to fall back on, but it's almost creating that little backup plan like that. Um,
And I don't know about for you, but for me, when when I've done like little construction projects, you realize how hard it is. I almost wish, man, there was like, shoot, I wish I say this with kids all the time. I'm like, I wish I knew how hard the things were because like I'm way tougher now than when I was racing just because I have to like live on 3 hours of sleep and
yeah.
deal with kids yelling at me all the time. So, I think even that perspective is helpful for your racing. So, if people think, oh, I can't go take a plumbing class because it's going to affect my training. No, when you realize how hard a plumber works and you see like what he has to do, you go like, okay, yeah, I'm going to take every advantage of what I got here. But yeah, not and that's a great point about your faith. Like if you're a believer or not, just the community of people that you have in your church family and the people around that. I totally did what you did. I didn't drink, um, but I isolated. I would just disappear, man. Um, I'd turn my phone off. I would check out. And so, which like as well as me, that was the worst thing you can do in that
Mhm.
scenario. But having that community around you and it's huge.
Yeah, which now, you know, it goes into your job now, which think is like the most coolest job that you possibly could have as an ex racer, you know, is now working with the team that you were riding for and getting to ride the coolest new stuff. How was that? How are you enjoying that?
Yeah, it's been fun, man. It's been a great transition for me. I was grateful that it came along because I don't think I was quite ready to make that hard stop. Um, and it helped me, like now I look at like, okay, when I'm done with this, like there's got to be other things ahead of me. But I didn't have that when I was racing, so it was a good chance for me to kind of like, okay, I'm gonna kind of get back into this and work what's going on in my head out a little bit. But I really do enjoy it, and I enjoy it in a totally different way than I did racing. As far as like, it's fun when our team does good and things like that. But what I really like now is like when I hop on a bike and I like it. That for
Yeah.
me, like, man, it is cool to like work on a production bike and you ride it and you're like, cool, we did a good job. Like, that to me is a lot of fun and I think that's almost preparing me for in a way for like what's next after this chapter of my life is I'm learning that I enjoy things other than the riding. I enjoy the process. I enjoy being disciplined. I enjoy seeing things through. I enjoy working with people. And so that there's certain things about this that I'm really appreciative for because I think it's helped me kind of move forward in a way.
Yeah, I get the sense of like when you just gel with the bike and especially like a change that maybe you suggested to make and it just makes it click that much better and I now think about like those old vet riders that were at the track that maybe just like got on their badass bikes for like 2 laps, but they're just smiling ear to ear. I feel like that's how I would be if I would go out to the track, just hit one berm like super good. I would just be like, y'all see that back there? So I could only imagine, and especially seeing all the cool new stuff and prototype stuff. And yeah, I think that's like secret agent that's like, you know, every kid wants to be like a secret agent, and
Yeah.
that's kinda like what you get to do, but the motocross world, I think that's super cool.
Yeah, and
But yeah,
it's
I got sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, it's just fun because I'm starting to understand motorcycles too. Sure, I think as a rider, you always know a feeling,
Mhm.
and you're always chasing that feeling. But now I'm starting to understand like what makes a feeling, and that's been a lot of fun. So, um, yeah,
Do you think that there's riders out there chasing a feeling that doesn't exist?
100%. Yeah.
Because I swear when we rode, it was like, "Here's the bike, ride it, and if you don't like it, sorry about you." But now it seems that's like that's too hard to do these days, so
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely like catered to, and unfortunately the squeaky wheel gets the grease, but it's I think one thing I appreciate about our time too is there wasn't really much of that, it was kind of like you just had to figure it out. I think that's something that's lost on this generation a little bit too, is that, that dude, if I would have like told my dad, "Hey man, my forks aren't working right," like that was a sure way to
Yeah.
like get a slap to the helmet.
A swift kick in the ass and say, "Look, he's gonna ratchet that thing up like 8 clicks and say, 'Now go ride it.'"
Tell me how it
Don't
works
pull
now. Yeah.
off. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for
But,
sure, for sure.
um, alright, so I got a couple questions and then I'll let you go. But I guess one of the first ones is, what advice would you give your younger self if you could go back and redo things all over? What would the younger 16-year-old Trey do?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. I think I probably would have encouraged myself to be more process oriented, I guess. And what I mean by that is I was so goal oriented, like very short term goal oriented. And so, for example, this first year I want to win this amount of races and then I want to win the championship. And then and that's kind of how I operated. I wish I could have seen like 15 years down the line and
Don't we all?
yeah, I wish I could have gone like, this is the rider that I want to be in 10 years.
Yeah.
And I think our sport is so short-sighted. I mean, and for a lot of reasons, like our careers are short, contracts are short, but I think if you can just put all that aside and go like, this is the athlete that I want to be in 10 years. And I think if you play that long game, like you'll be up there.
Mhm.
But it's really hard to not. I think I got so discouraged when I wasn't what I wanted to be at times that it almost became a big downfall in me. Like my last season, 16, I didn't win a race, I didn't get on the podium, but I qualified first a handful of times, and I was still top four. I looked at that season as like I am washed up. But I wish I could have seen like I think if I would have maybe stayed in it, been healthy, like a couple years from now, I could have still been competitive. And um, so I wish if I would tell myself one thing, just be like, hey, it's not a loss, it's a lesson. Keep growing. Keep learning.
Yeah, that's some solid advice. I don't think you have anything to look back on, Trey, and be like, "Man, like, I just didn't." Maybe just your deep self say, like, "I didn't do things that I might have wanted to do," but I look at you as a very successful person, a very successful human being, and I think that trumps all things that you could possibly ever, like, imagine. Um, and yeah, which I guess brings me to one another question is, when people say Trey Canard 20 years from now, what do you wanna be remembered for?
I appreciate that, man. That means a lot. I think one of the big things in our sport is that it's just really hypercritical, and we're all very like hypercritical of ourselves. I hate the saying you're only as good as your last race. It just
Mhm.
devalues us in a lot of ways. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I hope people could see me just like a really normal guy. Like um, I never really enjoyed like the fame of it all. I just wanted to like treat the janitor the same way I treated like the champion. Like I just
Mhm.
the people that have really impacted my life, that's the type of people they were. And so I just That's what I hope. I hope people would see me and uh, talk about me and just kind of like, man, he was a real dude. He was a genuine guy. Um, that's what I hope. I'd rather leave that mark than you know, um, and a certain amount of race wins or anything. So
Well, I definitely think that that's already checked off the list, and when people look back at it, that they'll definitely say that, and I'll be one of them. I know several people that I know, admire you, and yeah, if you ever need someone to come ride one of those Hondas, I already got a jersey. So if you need
you
me
already
to
got the
come up
jersey.
and spin some laps, so if that bike's collecting some dust, just give me a call and I'll make the trip. You still in Shawnee, aren't you?
No, so
Are
when my wife and I got married, I moved to Edmond. She was going to school in
uh,
Edmond, yeah. So we've been here ever since. But
I think that's even closer, man. That's even
yeah,
better.
it is, it is, it is.
S
Oh man, we got to get you back on the bike, dude.
Trust me, I really want to. I've been really itching to do it, and it's not that I don't want to, it's honestly, it's so expensive to be
Yeah,
like a hobby to go
yeah,
do on the weekends when you have the kids, like you said, that are in sports,
yeah,
and I just wouldn't want it to sit there and collect dust, but I think at the same time, I would like to just see it in the garage. I just start
yeah,
it up in the garage every now and again, but,
yeah. Let's
yeah,
put this out there. Get Mountain Moyne a free bike. This guy needs it.
nah, dude, that'd be awesome. But, yeah, it was hard enough to come by those when I actually had some results, so now it'd be really hard to come by, but, man, I appreciate you, Trey, so much for taking the time and, being on the show with me and giving us some of the insights. I know somebody out there is gonna benefit from it, and, yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and it means a lot to me.
Oh man, like I told you at the start of the show, man, I saw this on I think it was an Instagram post, and some of the stuff you were saying, I was like, man, this is like such a big hole in our sport. I mean, I think in every sport, but in our sport especially. So keep charging, man. I hope it grows into something really special, and I'll be cheering on the sidelines, man.
Well, I appreciate you again, Trey, and we'll have to do it again, circle back and run it back sometime. So,
Yeah, sounds
uh,
good, man. I'm gonna work on some orange powder coated hubs in
hey, don't be doing that. I'll mail them to you. All right, Trey. I'll talk to you later. Thanks
All right.
again.
Thanks,
All
man.
right. See ya.
Yeah.